There are plenty of people who'd like a real-life Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and honestly, it could be closer than we think. Whether it's being delayed because of COVID or some other factor that we can't account for, a real-life Freddy Fazbear's would be fun as hell, no pun intended. There were people asking MatPat and Scott to work together to make it happen, but guess what? I've come up with a strategy that could totally work, even if it may need some tweaking because it's the US and I'm working with like Canadian prices and laws and stuff, but it could still translate to an actual plan that can really work to get us a real-life Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, except hopefully without the murder and convoluted story that we don't totally understand. I even made a couple mock-ups so that this can actually happen. So, share this with Scott on Reddit if you want to see a real-life Freddy Fazbear's, and let me jump in. Firstly, location, 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 right? The obvious answer here is to go with the closed Chuck E. Cheese location. Chuck E. Cheese recently has closed 34 locations across the US, with locations closing in California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. So, any of these locations could be used as a potential first location at the very least, with some states having multiple closures. Buying one of these locations would be expensive, and online I couldn't find any real reports on how much it would be. You'd have to work that out with Chuck E. Cheese. However, to open and operate a Chuck E. Cheese location would range from $1.17 million to $1.83 million, with a franchise fee of $800,000, according to Chuck E. Cheese's section of franchisehelp.com. So assuming the higher end of the price range, this would require an investment of around $2.63 million, not taking into account that these locations are closed and they're probably just looking to break even on it and maybe not make money. But which state should we be selecting? Well, looking on Google Trends, we can actually see what states search for Five Nights at Freddy's the most. Looking for the search term Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, since you know that would be the name of the location, we see Virginia searching it the most over the past 12 months as of April 2021, followed by Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Texas in that order. Comparing that to our list of states, Virginia is the state with the highest search and has a close location in Fredericksburg. And I don't know about you, but the fact that it's in Fredericksburg, you know, like Freddy, that seems like fate to me. But there is also the thought of Florida, who is the second most searched and is only slightly less searched, so like it's like a close second, and has multiple Chuck E. Cheese restaurants closed, located in Miami, North Lauderdale, Miami Gardens, and Green Acres, so there is room for expansion. Florida is also a popular tourist spot thanks to the Disney park in Orlando, where I would go with my family. I think we've went like 2 or 3 times. So it's probably a better idea to go with Florida's Miami location, even though Orlando and Miami aren't really that close, but it's still centralized, okay? And everything's open in Florida, so you can start work on it right away. So the Miami Chuck E. Cheese location is the first one to be bought by Scott Cawthon. What would it look like? Well, many fan creations always make it appear the same as just a normal Chuck E. Cheese, but replacing the logo and text. Probably the most famous one being the image used in MatPat's old FNAF theories. But we could take this one step further. Since the inside of the restaurant is already seen in-game, we can take that same design concept and just convert it to real life. I feel like that's pretty obvious. With the red and black squares along the wall, potentially outlined with additional decoration. You would also need to either replace or repaint the tables and booths and stuff like that, along with replacing the posters on the wall and the banners hanging above. The purple would also be changed to another color, most likely red, or maybe more of the red and black square pattern we see along the walls in the first couple games. The animatronics, if included, could easily be updated with Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie designs. Well, I mean like easy in comparison to everything else that needs to be done. And once that's done, you just need to replace the songs that play out of the speakers and then boom, you got working stage shows. I don't know if Foxy would need to have his own section or if you'd want to like add that off to the side, or if you want to use the kind of like separate stage that's on some of the Chuck E. Cheese stages. I don't know, it depends on the location, if it actually has one, but other than that, that's just more construction work. Now, what makes this different than your typical kids play joint, you ask? Well, it does actually have the FNAF characters, not infringing on copyright because Scott would be doing this all himself. There is another aspect of the place that I think would make this even more unique and bring in more sales. FNAF is a horror franchise after all, and for some reason a whole load of these kids love being scared crapless by the many animatronics. So why shouldn't this location offer a spooky surprise for anyone willing to come after dark? Much like how Security Breach will have a day and night cycle, why not let the restaurants have the same? Where instead of closing at 9 p.m., they swap to a creepy and horror-themed joint where the kids can come to get scared while eating pizza and playing games. You know, the lights can flicker, you have people dressed up, like a year-round haunted house. We could even get some of the games we see in Pizzeria Simulator, like Fruity Maze and Midnight Motorist, and real physical arcade machines. All you need is a TV monitor. People do it all the time on YouTube. It would actually be an incredible idea that would suck in a lot more people and increase profits late into the night. This also works for adults who are fans of the series, who may not want to deal with the children and the kid-friendly atmosphere that the location would have during the day. This time frame would feature actors in the FNAF suits, but not Springlock suits because, well, we all know how that ends. But this would be just like a Halloween haunt for our Canadian friends or whatever Disney does. It's like Halloween Horror Nights or whatever it's called over there. People in costumes who can't touch but aim to scare, maybe jiggling some doors or hiring actors working as kids or patrons who get lured away, maybe even making a Nightmare Fredbear suit. There is so much that you can do. Oh, you can have like Foxy slowly peek out from behind it unless someone like looks or something like that. You can have him slowly peek out and then you can Eventually, of course, you could expand, opening more Fazbear locations at the other closed Chuck E. Cheese's. And I feel like Chuck E. Cheese would be down for that too, because the resulting competition could help boost their sales as well, since there would be kids who don't want to go to a horror-themed joint at night, but have a newly ignited or rediscovered joy for pizzeria arcades and animatronic bands. And hell, even as a joke, you could open up Chica's Party World, because we all know that Scott's gonna have some form of like ARG with these locations if this is actually a thing. Scott, I have an idea for that too. Hit me up. The menu would serve pizza, obviously, but also themed meals like Chica's Chicken Wings or Bonnie's Breakfast for Dinner, since, you know, eggs. Maybe Foxy's Flapjacks. It will definitely use a little work, but I'm honestly thinking it would taste and look incredible, both the menu and the food respectively. I have a design in mind, but let's be honest, I can't show my whole hand, can I? No, I actually gotta leave some stuff to actually hopefully make this a thing. So, cause you know, if there's some mystery, Scott might actually like, you know, cause we all know how he loves mystery. And Scott, by the way, I'm happy to help. I love this series and would travel to see a Fazbear restaurant like this happen. And if you go with the Florida location like I suggested, everything is open, so you're already good to go. Maybe not morally speaking, but just like roleplay William Afton and you'll be fine. The menu is simple, since it's on a monitor and needs to be seen at a distance, with a red border and simple sans serif text describing the various dishes and listing prices, with images of the dishes of the 4 major characters on each of the screens: Freddy's Pizza, Chica's Chicken Wings, Bonnie's Breakfast for Dinner, and Foxy's Ultimate Nachos. I was going to do Ultimate Fries, but kids are going to find nachos more exciting than fries, even if the whole alliteration thing makes sense. And while the horror events are focused on adults, the majority of the fan base and patrons are going to be children. Hopefully not missing ones. Obviously, you can also offer alcoholic beverages like beer and perhaps margaritas for the parents of the kids during the day, and all the adults that will be coming in during the horror nights. More on that later. But other than that, it's a fairly straightforward menu. The menu has to be simple for the kids and anyone looking from a distance, and this is the kind of stuff I actually went to school for. I went over the interior design in the last part briefly, but only offered ideas instead of actually providing examples. So let's do that. Like I said last time, I think the purple sections of the wall should be replaced with red and black squares like we see in the original maps. And the white and black squares with the red outlines on the walls should go around the joint as well. We've seen the interior in the first few games, so we might as well just recreate something similar. The booths could just be repainted, or they could be separated into sections based on what animatronic is your favorite. Same with the party tables, with sections for Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy, with posters for each characters indicating those sections, as well as banners to indicate it overhead so you can see it at a glance. The stage may come with a separate section for Foxy known as the Galaxy stage for Chuck E. Cheese, which would easily be converted into Pirate's Cove. It's already a circle, you just put up a curtain. The arcade is probably the biggest reason anyone went to Chuck E. Cheese, the second being the recycled pizza conspiracy, and the third being because of the characters. However, the kids this time around will be coming for the FNAF characters and be staying for the arcade. The arcade could be filled with the normal games we see at normal Chuck E. Cheese's: skee-ball, whack-a-mole, basketball, knock-a-clown, all the rest. However, the biggest showstoppers could be FNAF-themed versions of these games. Whack-a-mole could be Whack-a-mini-rena, and Knock-a-Clown, you know, the one where you like throw the balls at the clown or like you throw them at its teeth, could be Popping Balloon Boy's balloons. There could be a photo booth that puts a nightmare animatronic or Springtrap behind the people in the booth for a real scare, and you could include custom games like Fruity Maze, Midnight Motorist, and Security Puppet. There are plenty of people who've made their own arcade cabinets. Take this one from the YouTube channel I Like to Make Stuff. Bob does an incredible job. And all Scott would really need to do is code full versions of these games. Oh no, a game dev having to code new games, so difficult. Actually, not even new games. Games that he's already made, just full versions. The games would be incredibly popular and would result in high revenue since they wouldn't really provide tickets, so they'd just be spending coins to play real FNAF games, but getting nothing other than that in return so your prize counter doesn't lose anything. This is how the businesses think. They could also make machines for arcade versions of the original FNAF games, maybe having buttons that flip through cameras and you need to find Foxy before he gets to you or something along those lines. The prize counter could have a real version of the FNAF puppet box there, playing its signature music to provide a reason for why it's still closed. However, this could potentially be opened at night during the horror nights. If not, the person working at the prize counter could simply be dressed like the puppet. The prize counter could offer things similar to the one from Help Wanted, and offering signature items such as stuffed baskets of exotic butters, which have already been made by Funko. They could also offer FNAF Funko Pop figures, with rarer ones being valued higher, as well as potentially Switch and console versions of the games, along with the smaller prizes that are just meant to keep people from getting the big prizes by saving up. You know, the kids will impulse buy them. That's why they're there. This could also feature recreations of things like the Lore Keeper ending certificate, which you could potentially get by presenting something given to you after beating all 3 of the FNAF 6 games. You know, the ones in the custom cabinets I mentioned. There is way more we can talk about this, trust me. Now, the horror nights are what I find the most interesting out of these new ideas, with maybe these happening once or twice a week instead of every night like I said last time, thinking logistically and knowing that most people won't want to work all the nights. 9 PM would be when they would normally close, so instead, how about closing for an hour while the team sets up for a special treat for all who dare to return? The restaurant could be lit with black lights, revealing blood stains on the wall along with handprints and maybe some text written in blood, or paint that shows up under a black light, and not during the day. The lights in the bathrooms could be flickering, and most of the arcade machines would be off, aside from any that make loud noises, distract well, or could scare you. Skee-ball, basketball, balloon popping for example, as well as any custom ones like the FNAF 6 Lore Keeper minigames, or if any of the 8-bit minigames from FNAF 2 were recreated. Obviously, they would include jump scares at the end. The food would be limited to whatever you wanted, probably taking away the breakfast for dinner, and you could have actors walking around in nightmare-themed suits with the animatronics programmed to make sudden movements, since they need to move to keep their servos from locking up, but they can't really walk around. The music that plays could be replaced with atmospheric and scary themed music, like what we use for our videos, with periodic screams and maybe a couple faded door shakes and calls from Phone Guy, making sure that Scott Cawthon makes an appearance in the first Freddy's location. This would be the first pizzeria to do something like this, as of my knowledge, and the possibilities are endless. It would be a great first date, as long as you're both into it, and it would increase profits tenfold, basically turning the place into a diet bar with horror elements, keeping the place open until 2 AM when you have last call at 1 or 1:30. I don't know how bars work. I turned 19 and then I didn't really go to bars, and then the whole pandemic thing happened, so I can't really go to bars now. Yeah, I don't know how bars work. I could talk about cash flow and investments, but that doesn't really interest you, I'm sure. Well, first of all, let's get this out of the way instantly. If FNAF was real, it would be horrible. Just straight up. 5 kids would have gone missing on one of their locations, and the company probably would have closed down. But let's assume that people would still end up going, whether it's because they didn't believe the lies or thought that the government made it up, or because it's their choice, or because they're a YouTuber who wants views. Why are you looking at me like that? Well, assuming that people still went to the restaurant because perhaps maybe they vanished around the area instead of inside the place, what would it be like to live in a real Five Nights at Freddy's? For a kid, it would be pretty awful, but you also wouldn't know it. The world would be dangerous and anyone could be William Afton's next victim, but you wouldn't know that there was a serial killer on the loose with murderous animatronics able to disguise themselves and hide in plain sight that are willing to kill at any moment. But I mean, like, to be fair, that's also like real life, minus the animatronics. For adults, if you have kids, you may be worried. I mean, any parent is always worried about their kids, but if there was a group of kids who went missing in your area, I'm sure that there would at least be a small amount of paranoia. And honestly, it would be reasonable. I mean, I grew up in a house where my father was always worried. So much so that my sister couldn't walk up to her friend's house up the street without him watching to make sure she was okay. And while that would probably be extreme for most parents, if there was a very real threat of kidnapping, I'm sure that there would be a lot of curfews. For the sake of this entire thing, we also have to assume that the police didn't investigate the interiors of the animatronics themselves, despite them smelling like death and leaking body fluids, including blood. Since that's something literally anyone with common sense would check when investigating the disappearance of children and then learning that animatronics are leaking blood and smelling like a dead body. But what of the technology that we see in these games? Would animatronics that can alter their appearance be realistic? No. Of course not. The spring-locked suits, the illusion discs, the twisted animatronics, and the like are all extremely improbable considering the actual technology of not only our time, but the 80s when this would have normally taken place. At least, if we have a rough idea of the timeline, which honestly at this point, we could be totally wrong about the timeline. The technology in the games is so highly advanced that we have absolutely no idea what else they could have access to. They could have smartphones in the 80s for crying out loud. And if they don't, then William should have capitalized on that rather than murdering countless innocent kids, because he could have literally been a billionaire. The highly advanced technology would have to be disregarded in terms of the abilities of William Afton, so while this seems like a fight that nobody could really win, realistically, it wouldn't be as bad as we think, at least in those terms, since even Chuck E. Cheese, the closest thing to Freddy Fazbear's in our world, obviously, still only has the most simple robotic abilities known to man, despite the popularity of Five Nights at Freddy's and their ability to capitalize on that trend by taking some of those concepts, like the advanced robotics, not the dead kids, and then converting them into real life, because like the concepts in the actual pizzeria, not having kids go missing, like I said, that's a bad idea. Although based on comments left on previous videos, especially about how a real-life Freddy's would happen, there have been plenty of people that are willing to die, or more likely to go to Chuck E. Cheese if it was more dangerous for some reason. Y'all are weird. But one final query. How would YouTubers handle it? Clearly, there are YouTubers in this world thanks to the mention of MatPat, or at the very least Game Theory in the Fazbear Frights books, so what of the others? Well, we would most likely not be talking about FNAF. Something that I'm sure a lot of you would enjoy, but also something that you wouldn't be aware of, which is a whole other can of worms that I won't be getting into today, because you wouldn't know about FNAF because FNAF wouldn't be a thing. However, I'm sure that there would be plenty of true crime and conspiracy YouTubers heading to a or the same Freddy Fazbear's where the kids went missing in order to solve the case, or really just talk about it and get nowhere with it. Sounds like someone I know. Since they don't have the clearance or the equipment to do an actual investigation, or on a potentially closed case. Shane Dawson would 100% have gone there for that same conspiracy theory video, and the psychic twins would definitely have showed up at some point and definitely sensed something, but not quite known what it was. Ooh. MatPat may have made a food theory video about it because he made a food theory video about Chuck E. Cheese, but the thing is, these YouTubers coming to investigate, would they be William's next targets? It's an interesting question because as far as we know, he's only killed one adult, and that was Henry. Every other victim has been a kid, so while they may be in more danger, there would clearly be a bigger issue in trying to deal with these YouTubers, especially if they get killed or die mysteriously shortly after visiting a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. It would probably start some form of curse rumor that would only get more people to go there to try to solve that case. But how would Freddy's have dealt with the pandemic? Would they have made enough to survive the years of quarantine? Or would they, like our Chuck E. Cheese, have to file for bankruptcy? Would they get to open their Pizzaplex? Or would some problematic tweets from William Afton rise and cause the restaurant to get cancelled for calling Chica a he? These are all good questions that we will never really have an answer for because, well, FNAF isn't real. And that's why people keep commenting that nothing in these videos is scary. No, it's not real. Can't actually hurt you. That's why it's not scary. Scary is subjective. Just relax.
Number 10. Fredbear's Family Diner. Fredbear's Family Diner was the original location before Freddy Fazbear's became a thing. Although, don't ask me exactly where it falls on the timeline, because honestly, that timeline is a mess, and it's somewhat unclear at this point what restaurants existed where and when along it. Although many members of the fanbase have tried their darndest to untie the tangled web, we don't know a ton about Fredbear's, but we do know that it was older and that Fredbear was the star of the show there. It likely had more of a rustic feel to it, despite still having animatronics. Number 9. Fazbear's Fright. I mean, not really a restaurant, but this still had probably all of the makings of one as a spooky yet semi-accurate replica of the original. Fazbear's Fright was created to be a haunted house kind of attraction showcasing artifacts collected from the real Freddy Fazbear's, and intended to profit off of basically all the negative press surrounding the family restaurant due to it being involved in multiple missing persons cases which remain unsolved. Even though they might not serve food like a standard restaurant would, Fazbear's Fright at the very least would have some kind of makings of a kitchen. We know this from the story What We Found that mentions the location, or a similar one at the very least, in the 8th Fazbear Frights book. There we learn that there is an oven that seemingly works. Unfortunately in that case. And I bet they'd have some kind of candy to munch on in the gift shop at least. Because you know people that are coming are gonna buy candy. Who doesn't want to buy candy? I guess people that don't like candy. There's gonna be a bunch of people now that are like, I don't like candy. And I'm like, oh man. I'm sorry you don't like candy, but also get with it. Eat some candy, it's so tasty. Obviously I like candy too much. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about restaurants, I don't know if we could do a part 2 to this one because there's only so many of them, but if you like it, click like and we will definitely give you more content about the restaurants. Because yeah, we could do that. Number 8. Circus Baby's Pizza World. Like Fredbear's Diner, this is another location that we don't know too much about. Once again, we're not even really sure where exactly this one falls on that complex and confusing timeline. I feel like as well, the graph for that timeline would have like points going up and down and like intersecting. I just can't wait until time travel is introduced in this whole world, because I bet that's gonna happen at some point, and as soon as time travel's involved, it's gonna be a complete mess. Circus Baby's Pizza World involved a whole different cast of animatronics, and its main star was Circus Baby. I personally would love to meet Circus Baby in real life, as she is one of the only animatronics, I think, that can serve you ice cream. Like out of her, she could actually make the ice cream for you and serve it to you. Which, I really love ice cream, so I'm like way too hyped about that. You just might want to make sure you stay in a crowded area when spending time with Circus Baby or accepting any tasty ice cream offerings. Just to be safe. Number 7. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is obviously the main place we'd all want to go, but the real question is, which version of the restaurant would you want to visit? Would you want to see it when it was all shiny and new, or when it was more worn out and fallen into disrepair? Or would you prefer to visit it when it was completely abandoned? Maybe try to bring a friend there to give them a little scare? There have been lots of different versions of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, but I think the most iconic one that most of us would be keen to see in real life would be the first location we ever saw in Five Nights at Freddy's, the first game. Just seeing the office with its sliding mechanical doors would be a huge trip. Number 6. The Dark Circus. While this isn't a location we've specifically visited through the games, it is referred to both in the special delivery FNAF AR game for mobile and the new Security Breach Fury's Rage side-scroller we were given to hold us over till the full Security Breach game drops, hopefully later this year. Hopefully. The Dark Circus would likely be a circus event that you could visit, get concessions and merch at, like a normal circus show, but where probably everyone involved would either be dressed up as the Freddy's cast but twisted and more sinister looking, or would actually be animatronics themselves. I don't know which one is scarier, but both seem pretty intense. Number 5. Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental. This one is also not a typical restaurant, but it sure would be a cool and creepy location to visit. I don't think I could bring myself to crawl through a vent, so not sure how much of it I would personally get to see. Although, I imagine any guests visiting for rentals don't have to crawl through vents, right? Or are any customers just delivered the animatronics like in special delivery? Either way, maybe visiting as a tour guide or a prospective customer makes the most sense here. And who knows, maybe they'll have a sampling of exotic butters for you to snack on while you get a tour of the facility. I would definitely be down for that. Some tasty exotic butters. Number 4. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. What if Freddy Fazbear's was a franchise? Well, if we had Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Places everywhere, we would get to find out. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place is the location we visit and manage in Pizzeria Simulator, which means that if Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place was a thing in real life, it would be a restaurant where each location would likely be slightly unique. Each one would be owned by an individual who pays for basically the right to use that name and is in charge of what kind of decor, animatronics, and likely menu items would be available to guests. Although, you can't just make up new things usually with a franchise, but you do get to choose from like a list of things. A catalog, if you will. Having it as a franchise would also provide a lot of opportunity for there to be many different locations throughout the country and the world, which could be very exciting for fans. Or very terrifying if we were living in a world similar to the games. Because then there'd probably be a lot of death. Number 3. Fazbear Funtime Service. Fazbear Funtime Service is more like a delivery service for the Freddy's experience, but that being said, for most of us the world over, that is the closest we've been getting to a restaurant experience for the last little while. Because there was this whole thing where we couldn't really go outside for a while, remember that? So for that reason, I am going to count this experience as a restaurant. Delivery experience. We're counting it. And also, how cool would it be to have your favorite animatronics come to your home and visit you, assuming they were in working order, not malfunctioning and trying to kill you. And assuming that your friends couldn't just send them your way at all hours of the day and night. I'm definitely down to get a surprise visit from Chica with maybe some pizza. I know you can't do that in the game, but wouldn't it be cool if they also brought you pizza? But I would not be down for that in the middle of the night while I was asleep. Just to knock on the window while you're sleeping and just Chica standing there with pizza and a knife. No thanks! Is it weird if Chica brings you fried chicken as well, because she is a chicken? I wonder if they have fried chicken at Freddy's. I would totally get some. Number 2. Virtual Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Personally, my favorite restaurant that I've visited thus far through FNAF was actually a virtual one. I love the virtual version of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that we get to visit in the FNAF VR experience, Help Wanted. I'd either love to go visit this version as a walk-around virtual experience that was actually integrated into a room, so I could experience it sensorially as well. I don't know if sensorially is a word, but I said it, so now it's a word. That's how it works. I'm apparently Shakespeare. I'd also really love to experience physically having an animatronic to repair, like something that you actually can see in the game, but you could actually reach out and touch the parts of the animatronic that you're fixing. That'd be really cool. And I'd just love to see this version brought to life, whether it be in a virtual setting or in a real world. You can go inside the restaurant setting. Perhaps we could even have a sneaky glitch trap there who only appears faintly in the background somehow, or is hiding in the dark, and you basically get a prize if you manage to spot them. That could be creepy, but also fun. Number 1. Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. Obviously, this is the one we'd all most love to go to, I assume, because go-karts! I love go-karts. But seriously, the Mega Pizzaplex appears to have it all. It has mini putting, go-karts, a salon, laser tag, ice cream, arcades, animatronics, pizza, all the things you could possibly want, and a ball pit, which honestly, I don't really want a ball pit, but it's there for people that like ball pits. So this is definitely the place to visit if we could only have one of these places made into a reality. Of course, I don't know if I'd want to get stuck there overnight with animatronics, like is probably going to happen in the game, and with Vanny possibly chasing me and trying to kill me, but during the possibly much safer operating hours, you bet. Just not overnight, and not alone, and not being chased by animatronics.
And it's in Springtrap. Craftix Gaming's YouTube channel features a video of a real Springtrap costume, and honestly, it's terrifying. Springtrap is the main animatronic of FNAF 3, and this costume is freaking nuts. This is a very good costume, and while Springtrap may not be the scariest animatronic, he's not someone I'm gonna want to tussle with. However, I want to talk about what's going on with this character, because my guy You dressed up as a possessed man who is inhabiting an animatronic, unable to die but still decaying. You are quite literally dressing up as a serial killer. Like in the FNAF world, if you dressed up like this, it'd be like if you dressed up as Ted Bundy in this world. And if you want to be in FNAF that badly, okay, don't dress as the serial killer, is all I'm saying. And I know that's ironic coming from me, okay, given what I'm dressed like at this moment. Do I look like I want to be in Five Nights at Freddy's? Have I made things seem like I want to be in this world? Because if I have, you need to watch more of these videos, okay? Also, I'm dressed up as the purple guy who makes no appearance in the actual FNAF world, okay? There is no actual, okay, there is the actual purple guy, but he doesn't look like this, okay? The purple guy that I am dressed as is not actually a real version of the serial killer in their world, okay? I don't want to be in that world. Those doors aren't it, Chief. They ain't it. No, the doors ruin it for me. And 9, Scrap Baby. Scrap Baby is a creepy animatronic. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Scrap Baby is by far creepier than the normal baby animatronic, and this costume certainly does it justice. Animatronics are a difficult costume to really make, since we're people, and unfortunately do not have robotic limbs for the most part. Or if we do, we typically try to make it look like a real leg instead of a robot leg. But a Scrap Baby is even more difficult since, you know, it's a scrap animatronic, and it has a giant freaking claw in its hand. Scrap Baby is a very damaged and recycled version of Baby with a realistic reddish orange kind of bodysuit, light blue stuff, yellow pigtails, and okay, she wears an orange top with red frills, and it's just super damaged. Okay, like this, she's very damaged. Mentally and physically. Yet somehow Instagram user Gaius Bazzani was able to recreate this in an awesome way. So, very well done. And at 8, Vanny. With Vanny being an upcoming villain and already one of the most popular characters in the series, there are bound to be plenty of costumes of her. However, this one from Rojito Uwu on Twitter is probably the most accurate and creepiest one I've seen. Vanny being a reluctant follower does in a way technically make this a glitch trap cosplay as well, but we won't really talk about that because that's not what counts. This costume is probably the most realistic costume on this list because, well, Vanny in the games ended up making her own suit and is just a human inside, whereas like the other characters like Scrap Baby or Springtrap are animatronics as well as sometimes part human, be it soul or another body. And Rojito's costume follows the exact same concept as Vanny, just a person who makes their own suit, which makes this potentially one of the scariest things of all. I mean, technically it's not the same thing because they're not possessed and enticed to make it by the person possessing their brain, but I mean, it's close enough. I mean, they could be possessed for all we know. I don't know. And at 7, Ennard. Costumes don't really have to be elaborate to be scary. Take for example this Ennard cosplay by YouTube channel Skywarped33. The entire endoskeleton spaghetti bits aren't there, but the lights and sounds make it even more frightening than you'd think. The face also opens up, and I think that we all know how I feel about animatronics who can move their face at will at this point, okay? It's not something that should be allowed. However, even without all the parts and the eyes, this Ennard cosplay is not something I would want to run into in a dark alley, especially not after that goddamn vent repair minigame that caused me to have some serious issues, okay? It's rough, okay? I used to like spaghetti. Man, like now what am I supposed to do? And at 6, Nightmare Freddy. Nightmare Freddy is one of the most iconic versions of the character, even if there are only 3 games that feature this guy, those being FNAF 4, Ultimate Custom Night, and FNAF VR. However, this Nightmare Freddy cosplay is insane, and in my opinion would have been our frontrunner for the Coupe de France cosplay competition that it was for back in 2017. The video was uploaded by YouTube channel Gorgon Geek, and this guy plays the robot thing really well, but as soon as he drops that microphone he goes into terror mode, and it's certainly something to behold. I would have enjoyed it if he had like the little frettles with him, but the moving mouth is certainly a nice touch, especially with the attempted jump scares they do in the video, because he just goes like ah and stuff. Like imagine if this guy had started twerking though. At one point I thought he was going to. He went to pick up the mic and I thought he was just going to start busting it, but no. I think that would have won them gold though. If you get this out of here. If you had started twerking, my guy, you would have won. I don't know what place you came in, but if you'd twerked, you would have won. Halfway through into number 5, Buff Helpy. Okay, this may not be a cosplay, but Buff Helpy is probably the most disturbing non-cosplay character I can really include on this list. If you didn't already know, Buff Helpy is a meme that was created on a Daco FNAF meme review video and has ever since been haunting him and the rest of the community. Don't get me wrong, okay? I love Helpy, but this buff helpy meme has generated a whole load of buff FNAF character ideas, and it terrifies me now. There's nowhere is safe from these creations. If you look up any character, you're bound to find a buff version of them at some point. You just need to scroll down enough, okay? It's one of the rules of the internet, okay? Same thing with what happens to Chica. But no matter what, this is just some psychological torment that I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, actually. But I'm talking about it because, like, it's Halloween, and the world is currently my worst enemy, so if I have to look at this thing on a regular basis when I'm writing these goddamn lists, you have to look at it for this one number, okay? One number. That's all I ask. And at 4, Nightmare. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Nightmare is the scariest animatronic from the games, hands down. This guy will get me every time, and it's one of those reasons I just refuse to play FNAF 4. The other is Nightmare Fredbear, but at least I don't have to deal with them in real life, right? They're only a nightmare character created in the mind of a coma patient in a video game, right? Well, guess again. Thanks to Zombunny Creations on Amino Apps, we get both Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear. Ironically, Nightmare Fredbear is played by their twin sister. And I mean, it's ironic because, well, Elizabeth Afton is sometimes presumed to be Crying Child's twin sister. Anyway, these absolute hulking costumes are going to make me drop a load of my pants. Like, if I saw this in real life, holy crap. Like, imagine actually living in a house that is at least kind of laid out like the one from FNAF 4. And then your kids want to play a prank on you. My grandparents' house is kind of laid out like this. It's not as simple as just 2 halls on either side of the room. But like, they have the master bedroom does have 2 doors. So theoretically, that's something that can be reenacted there. I don't want to do that. No. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Glitch Trap. We know my issue with Glitch Trap, alright, okay? We know that I just want to watch William Afton burn and then leave him there permanently, hence why I'm wearing the costume. But I want him to actually be in hell and then stay there while we move on with another killer or something else in the series. Please, for God's sake, Scott. I hate this always comes back thing that he's got going on. And despite being dressed as Purple Guy, I want William dead. So, when I saw this frighteningly realistic looking Glitch Trap costume, my nerves hit an all-time high. I think the sheer simplicity of the Glitch Trap suit is certainly something that makes this a creepy costume, since the stitches are very accentuated here. They're very clear on this version. Like, it might be like the higher contrast than like the actual suit in the games, because like you know that they're there, but you can't really tell. But like, either way, this is creepy. Plus, again, it's another version of William goddamn Afton, who already haunts my nightmares. So what the heck, Zombunny Creations, again, on Twitter this time. Why do you gotta do this to me? Huh? Why? Bro? And ultimately, in at number 2, Twisted Freddy. Holy ever living hell, okay? This is a horrific masterpiece that I could only hope to achieve. This full body Twisted Freddy costume is probably one of the most horrific FNAF costumes I've ever seen. Especially because I believe that the Twisted animatronics are probably the scariest version of the animatronics present in the novels, and a solid tie for the scariest animatronics alongside the nightmare ones from FNAF 4. This is some pretty damn expert craftsmanship if you ask me, though, okay? This is a full body suit, and it blows my freaking mind. Like, look at this. It would weigh a ton, and it would definitely need a hander, especially if my clumsy was the one walking around in it, but it straight up looks like if Freddy Krueger were an animatronic. And I mean, I'm not mad about it in the slightest, but like, it's still freaking creepy. So, well done, DeRegular Sauce, who is the Twitter user behind this glorious creation. Well done. And finally, in at number 1, Withered Bonnie. This Withered Bonnie cosplay is probably the scariest damn FNAF cosplay I've ever seen. This is incredible and comes from the YouTube user The Nick of Time. At first, I legitimately thought that this was CGI instead of an actual costume, but lo and behold, it was just an insane costume. Glowing eyes and seemingly actually aluminum parts, and a chest that opens up that you can push it out with your other hand, which is honestly actually a decent scare. Frankly, in the video I was kind of taken aback when they did that, so in real life I'm sure that it was results in at least a bit of a jump scare, but this kind of thing always impresses the hell out of me, because like the closest I've come to making a full costume was when I helped someone work on one of theirs. But that's the closest I've gotten. Hey, I made like a lightning bolt for the chest, and I made paper cup, like bracers, that's about it. This is hella impressive to me. I don't understand how people do this. And a 10 Pirate Ride. Given that this is already in the style of a game in FNAF VR, certainly does help in porting this to an arcade cabinet, but there would be some things that they'd have to change, like turning it into one of those like classic shooter arcade games where the screen scrolls as you fight off bad guys threatening innocent civilians, and it tells you what to shoot and what not to shoot. Yeah, that's the kind of arcade game I see this as, except instead of scrolling sideways, it moves forward like the cart does in the ride in FNAF VR. It could just be a simple aim and shoot kind of thing, but maybe they could add some animatronics sneaking in and throwing some cake or pizza at you that you'd have to shoot to block. This would be in order to end the game early, so that you'd then have to pay more tokens, or just straight up money depending on how the system was run, but based on modern practices I think it would be a token system because it probably would end up making them more money in the long run. And at 9, Fun with Plush Trap. Fun with Plush Trap is a simple game that would operate much like it did in FNAF 4 for the arcade cabinet. Despite having more of a presence in FNAF VR, the simplicity of the controls in FNAF 4 would be exactly how this game operates, just in an arcade cabinet, which would require you to just push a button to get the light to shine, and then you let go of it to turn it off and allow Plush Trap to move, giving you the 60-second countdown to a jump scare if you fail to stop him before the timer, or if he gets to you before you stop him. It's a simple game with a simple premise, but it would work incredibly well for an arcade machine, and I think plenty of people would play it. And maybe you could have like multiple levels like Donkey Kong style, with various smaller nightmare animatronics like Fun with Nightmare Balloon Boy, Fetch, Mini Arenas, etc. Assuming that Plush Trap isn't a form of Fetch already. And today, Plush Babies. The 2 Plush Baby mini games where you have to look around for the various somehow animated baby plushes before they get to you is an interesting concept that with some tweaking could work for an arcade cabinet. It would require a joystick as the spotlight following the joystick, you just move it around to move the spotlight, but it's something that I think would work kinda well, but it would have to be done right. I don't know exactly what done right would look like. I'm an ideas guy, okay, I'm not a programmer, but I'm sure that it wouldn't be that difficult to work out, I hope. It wouldn't be as detailed or scary as the main minigame in FNAF VR, but it would still be something that would work decently well. It may not be the most popular game at the arcade, but that's why you have multiple levels including the hard mode one and the DLC one in the pumpkin patch. Plus, that's why it's only number 8, because it would be harder to get done properly. And it's 7, Happiest Day. The Happiest Day minigame is some of the most important lore and moments in the series, with the original missing children from the first missing children's incident from 1985 getting their souls released, showing that there are multiple ways to deal with what would later be called Remnant, the infusion of metal and soul, or rather metal and extreme emotion, or maybe in Springtrap's case, metal. Get it? Because his human meat is also in the suit. Never mind. Either way, the Happiest Day minigame is not a simple one-shot minigame. There's some build-up to it. It's like the main story of FNAF 3, so seeing those various minigames and glitches come together into a single arcade cabinet would be a beautiful sight. Almost as beautiful as Glamrock Chica. I mean, as my idea for a real FNAF pizzeria, which you should go totally watch, by the way. It's in one of the corners. I don't know which one anymore. And at 6, Claw Machine. This is pretty dark, but you people seem to love that kind of thing. So, what about a claw machine that was designed to be Baby while she was grabbing Elizabeth? Is that too far? Like a claw machine that's built to look like the baby animatronic on the outside with a window on the stomach where the claw would come out. And that's where the claw machine is. I think that would not only be a fun way to make it a FNAF themed claw machine, but it would also be dark as hell, and I love that kind of thing. Plus, it's about a fictional death, so it's not really distasteful. The idea also stands that this is something out of the box for this list, and I wanted to see what you thought about it, rather than just ranting on about the various minigames in the series for 10 minutes. However, it's time to get back to that, so moving on! Halfway through into number 5, Corn Maze. Corn Maze is one of the most stressful games in all of FNAF VR, compared only to the likes of the hallway from that very same DLC. Corn Maze revolves around you walking through a maze made of walls, not corn, for some reason, in search of colored keys. These keys unlock their respectively colored gate and result in you winning. However, Grim Foxy is chasing you and he always knows where you are. The only way to really get him off your tail, pun intended, is to hide behind cardboard cutouts after he notices you. The maze is also filled with clusters of crows that will alert Foxy to your location if stepped on, which will result in him finding you faster. As as well as scaring the living hell out of you. This game, in the same vein as the Help Wanted flat mode version, but controlled with a joystick and buttons, would work incredibly well, and you wouldn't have to find all 4 keys to unlock a secret one. You just don't have a secret one, and you're golden. Man, I'm a genius. And at 4, Security Puppet. Ah yes, Security Puppet. One of the 3 mini games required to play through to completion for the Lore Keeper ending of FNAF 6. And let's be honest, you should always play mini games through to completion, otherwise it's just mean. The Security Puppet minigame was pretty simple. Keep the assigned child away from the exit. However, the only catch is that there was no assigned child until the 3rd time booting up the game, where the child will already be outside, thus you failing. We know that this child is Charlie, who goes on to possess the puppet, and this was the only time we've seen a kill from 2 different angles. However, a game kind of like a Where's Waldo kind of thing with security bracelets seems like a wonderful and simple idea, especially when we know what the character is really trying to prevent. Would there be a green bracelet character, or would we only be looking for the green band? I don't know, it would be up to Scott. Also, Scott, or I guess whoever takes over next, please do this. Getting close to the end in number 3, Deliver Pizzas. The mini game that opens FNAF 6 isn't like anything else we've seen. Okay, well, it's kind of like Take Cake, but this time you're throwing pizzas at kids' screaming faces, and honestly, I love that idea. The fantasy of throwing a pizza in the screaming kid's face has been present ever since those little buggers in my old building bounced their basketball off my door and made my dog go absolutely nuts. But even without my secret thoughts, this would still be a fun arcade game, and I'm not letting you fight me on this. The difficulty of the game was already defined even before the real FNAF 6 started, and it was cool. But then throw in added difficulty of it being a full game and you have a whole new experience. At least, I think it would be at least, so can't be sure unless we try. Penultimately, in number 2, Midnight Motorist. Midnight Motorist is another one of those games that you could test in FNAF 6 that just feels right. The game is pretty simple, but it's certainly exactly what we need in an arcade cabinet at a pizzeria. A game for the short attention span of a child. You simply drive around until you run into 3 things, then boom, it's game over. You get tickets based on how far you went, or it's one of those lame ones where you don't get tickets at all because there's no feasible way to calculate that, which would also be kind of understandable. Or you just get 3. You know the ones I'm talking about. Midnight Motorist would make a good arcade game aside from the whole yellow guy mustard man debacle, so cut that part out and you're in the money, baby. Go forth and collect the king's tax of tickets and tokens. And finally, in at number 1, Fruity Maze. Fruity Maze, I think, was the obvious first choice here because while yes, the game does progressively get darker, it doesn't have to. You can stick to the original like level 1 Fruity Maze motif, add a proper goal or objective, and then have a weird FNAF version of a Pac-Man style game. Boom, you're done. Just don't make it depressing and allow the player to continue as long as they can, just like a normal Pac-Man game would work, and you're good. And you're golden. Golden Bonnie, dare I say. And maybe throw in a certain level where it's like the messed up dog, flowers, and blood kind of thing just to make sure it's authentic, because knowing these comments, you'll all be disappointed and even get mad if these things don't turn into something dark and twisted. I don't know about something like new being added to the series in the real world, but like, I don't know if you'd want that to be twisted and disturbing. Like if it was a new arcade game, for example, but something like Fruity Maze, you'd insist on it. So yeah, I know you're all sick, and I love you for it. And at 10, it's real, okay? A lot of people couldn't tell if I was being serious or not in the shorts, okay? And I guarantee you that this is actually real. This isn't something I'm making up, it's not a hoax, it's actually a thing. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is real, or well, is going to be. Kind of. Because of the company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible, called Virtual Dining Concepts, they did announce that they partnered with Scott Cawthon to take the first ever fictional video game setting and turn it into a real-life delivery restaurant, okay? Emphasis on the delivery part on that, however, because I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location that you can walk into. I'm going to be saying this a lot in this video, okay? Because seemingly no matter how many times I say it, nobody gets it. There is no actual location, okay? I leave a pinned comment on the short and nobody reads it. People even replying to that comment that said there was no physical location asking where it was going to be built. Guys, it's really happening, okay? You'll be able to order it, but you can only order it online through food delivery apps, just like how they handle Mr. Beast Burger, okay? I just hope that this stuff is actually seasoned, okay? I may be white, but I do have taste buds. And at 9, Scott Cawthon. Apparently a lot of people think that after Scott retired, Steel Wool ended up getting the copyright to FNAF, but this couldn't be further from the truth. As you can see on the announcement, as well as any image of the logo for this delivery service, it does maintain that FNAF FNAF and all of its components are still under the copyright of Scott Cawthon. Virtual Dining Concepts website even says that it partnered with Scott and not anybody else in order to make this delivery service come to life. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about this, okay, but Scott is the only person on the FNAF side, at least as far as we know currently, that is involved in the process. Mr. Beast isn't involved, Steel Wool seemingly isn't involved since they haven't mentioned it at all, since they only make money off Security Breach and Help Wanted. So yeah, okay, Scott is still the copyright owner and owner of the series, and I'm pretty sure that even for the next part of the series it will remain that way. He may not be involved that much, but whoever the series is handed off to won't have the copyright or the ownership. It will just be stuff that is pre-approved by Scott. In to date, Twitter. There isn't really a lot of new information since we last updated you in the previous short on the subject, the second one, not the first one. However, the restaurant still have an official Twitter account known as @FFazbear's Pizza, and based on their account details, they've actually been planning this since January of last year at least, considering that that's when the account joined. You can also sign up for email and text reminders on their website, freddyfazbearspizza.com, and they've been responding to quite a few people on Twitter, but not me, unfortunately. It's kind of annoying, really. But they also haven't sent out any text reminders since the last video as well. Like, I signed up for text reminders, haven't gotten one, which really makes me believe that this was only meant to kind of course correct since the announcement came early thanks to the tweet that had the leak that blew up. Okay? Virtual Dining Concepts really needed to make sure that their website didn't have the information about upcoming projects available for just anyone to see, especially when the fanbase surrounding the delivery service is as intense as this one. This may have sprung up thanks to people searching for ARG clues in the wake of Matt Pat's last FNAF theory video about the Fazbear Frights books before he released his Please Stop video, which in my mind is the most likely scenario of how this was found, but since the account hasn't tweeted in a week now, I'm pretty sure it was just made public so that they might as well like lean into the fact that we already knew about it, so yeah. And at 7, menu. We don't currently have a proper menu for the Fazbear service yet, but currently what we know is that according to Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, the easy to execute menu features craveable pizza rolls with a unique twist and game tie-ins that new and current fans will want to order over and over again. Now, whether the unique twist is death or a special topping is one thing, however, I'm pretty sure that we can all guess they'll also be serving pizza with a variety of customizable topping, especially according to their Twitter, since they did ask what our favorite pizza topping was in a tweet. I'm disappointed that there weren't more favorite pizza place jokes in there in those replies. However, based on the comments on our first short on the subject, there are going to be some scarier replies to that tweet as well, because it's Twitter. Luckily, I don't think they'll be adding fingers to the meat add-ons. We can also guess that they'll be serving similar stuff to like a normal Chuck E. Cheese or a pizza place, so soda, chicken as well, because Chica, I'm guessing, mini brownies, and probably a small variety of desserts. They may even have cake, because it's supposed to be a place you can go for your birthday, which I think would make the most sense, but only if the kitchen that ends up taking on this additional menu would also normally make cake. And at 6, no relation. XBlue is a YouTube group that has been working on making multiple FNAF locations real. They've done FNAF 4 and recently seemingly completed a recreation of FNAF 1, despite their channel description saying in progress, but their video saying that it's done. So maybe they're adding the finishing touches right now. The YouTube channel, to my knowledge, has no affiliation with Virtual Dining Concepts or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. However, their videos are incredibly cool and interesting, so if you want to see their rendition of a real FNAF, go check them out on YouTube, okay? I'm sure that if you're this deep into the FNAF algorithm, you've already seen it, but I might as well point you in their direction anyway, okay? Go subscribe to them. They're pretty cool. However, they do not have any relation to Virtual Dining Concepts or this delivery service as far as I know, okay? There also is no real location for this delivery service to operate from, again, so their videos have nothing to do with this announcement. Honestly, the announcement seems like it was rushed, again, because we ended up finding out thanks to the website having the information, then everyone started tweeting about it. But we were like, we were 2 days late to the party on that short, by the way. That was a whole other thing that was 2 days before, and I was like, oh, we should probably release a short. And besides, if they were affiliated, wouldn't they have made the FNAF 1 location first instead of second after FNAF 4? Or wouldn't they just have not posted it on YouTube because, you know, NDAs, legal stuff, Scott loving the element of surprise? Yeah, I'd think so too. Halfway through, in at number 5, Twitter hoax. The Twitter account of Diamond Zia on June 27, 2020 tweeted out 3 photos with the line of FNAF will be real in 48 hours. These pictures pictures were of news articles. One from the USA Today titled 5 Children Have Gone Missing Inside Chuck E. Cheese. Parents report smells coming ... One from the Associated Press called Post-Hour Worker at Chuck E. Cheese reported dead at 27. And a final one from Something News titled Night Shift Workers at Chuck E. Cheese's claim strange movements from animatronics during post hours. However, this title had animatronics spelt incorrectly. It said animatronics. Everyone was freaking out at these pictures of the articles, okay, particularly the first one, and they were shared all over the internet, okay? People were losing their minds, especially because this was around the time where Chuck E. Cheese was closing. However, people didn't realize that these were fake, okay? How are they fake, you ask? Simple source code editing. Well, okay, it's simple to me because I know how to do it, but if you don't know, it may seem complicated. But in reality, you can change what anything says on any website, but it will only change for you until you reload the page by editing the source code. All you need to do is find the aspect that you're looking for after you right click and click inspect. Yeah, especially on Google Chrome, it's easy. Once you do that, once you find the aspect, you can change it to whatever you want. You can change pictures, you can change titles, you can do whatever. So whoever made the original image had found an article potentially already about Chuck E. Cheese closing from USA Today and then changed the title to 5 Children Go Missing. And the same thing with the other articles. Hence why there were only images of the articles and not the actual links, okay? It was a hoax that blew up and people actually believed it, and some still do, and some think that's related to this restaurant, but it's not, okay? That was all fake, and plus that was 2 years ago, alright? There's no relation between those at all. In it for no animatronics. Guys, I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location, meaning that there won't be any animatronics that you can meet, unless your Uber Eats driver wants to go the extra mile and for some reason has a spare FNAF costume laying in his trunk or in his backpack. I don't really think it's gonna happen, and you know what, if they do have a spare one, that's gonna be questionable. Obviously, things can change, they may have a uniform or something to give to the drivers, but I can pretty much guarantee that that's not going to happen. Yeah, especially not like that, okay? If Mr. Beast even doesn't do that with Mr. Beast Burger, and it's Mr. Beast, I don't think that they're gonna be doing it for anyone else, okay? Sorry guys, but you won't be meeting any actual animatronics unless some seriously hardcore drivers go all out, or there's some secret ARG elements that Scott plans on including that we have no idea about, okay? But also, that's not me saying that there is an ARG. I don't fully believe that there is, but the appearance of a Freddy Fazbear's delivery service after the community had been told that no non-official business would participate is very sus in my opinion, okay? Scott is a sussy baka, all aboard the sus bus. Plus, it said that the pizza rolls are gonna have game tie-ins. So, unless that's a name, that's additionally sus. Dude, it's like I'm seeing this delivery service vent all over Skeld. And at 3, therapy. Some of these comments make me really think that there should be a group fund for FNAF fan therapy sessions because, dear lord, I make a lot of jokes, okay? But I hope that these comments are jokes or supposed to be funny because, fingers as toppings? You want to watch the bite of 83 or 87? What the actual The comments on our first short about this delivery service, ignore me pronouncing first wrong, are very concerning if anything is supposed to be real. Okay, this is a part of why Scott kept saying that he wasn't going to make a real FNAF. And I think that this is the best way that he could compromise to make it happen for the people who were good and wanted it, instead of, the people like this. Why would he want to make an actual location if people keep commenting stuff like this? Seriously, I feel genuine concern for you if you're being serious about wanting to possess an animatronic. Yeah, be a fan of the series and love the series as much as you want. Don't sacrifice your life to try to make the series real. Okay, that's not a good thing. Look at all the bad things that happened in the series. Plus, possession isn't real, especially in the same way that FNAF's possession works, okay? That's entirely fictional. And besides, there is no actual FNAF restaurant or location for you to go to anyway, so please stop commenting it, at least on our videos, so I don't have to see it. Ignorance is truly bliss. Penultimately, and at number 2, no Mr. Beast. I've seen a load of comments about people saying, why would Mr. Beast do this, or making jokes like Mr. Beast is gonna do a whoever kills 5 kids first gets $1 million video, but Mr. Beast has no affiliation with virtual Virtual Dining Concepts, which is the company making this delivery service possible, okay? Mr. Beast doesn't own it, he doesn't have any stake in it from what I know, he has nothing to do with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. I don't want there to be any issues that come up because people think that he is affiliated with this, okay? Jimmy has nothing to do with Freddy's. He only has affiliation with Mr. Beast Burger, which was also made possible by Virtual Dining Concepts. Me introducing it like that was just that you know that it was real. The company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible also is making FNAF possible. The two aren't related, except just because the company made both happen. I don't know if that makes you disappointed or happy about it, but there is no connection to Mr. Beast whatsoever unless they end up sponsoring him for a video so that they can like get the word out even more, or so that he can make like a version of the restaurant for a video and invite FNAF tubers or FNAF fans over for a chance to win it in a similar fashion to how he invited people over to win a chocolate factory. But even if that video does happen, it will only be a sponsorship deal and not an actual partnership, okay? It's like just like when YouTubers get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, okay? It's just a sponsor. We don't have any stake in Raid, okay? It would only be a sponsorship deal, okay? And the location that he would make wouldn't actually be a restaurant. It would only be used for that video and then it would be dismantled. Possibly even in the same place that he built the chocolate factory, assuming that he's renting like that unit or owns it. And finally, in at number 1, delivery service. I cannot emphasize this enough, okay? I saw a lot of people commenting saying that there's a real location finally, or asking where it is, or why would they do that? It's not that kind of restaurant. It's not a restaurant, it's a delivery service. Just like how you can't actually walk into a Mr. Beast Burger, there will be no physical location for you to visit. The whole point of Virtual Dining Concepts is that existing kitchens have the ability to make these, and they can opt in, turning them into outlets for these recipes. Like when you order Mr. Beast Burger, there is no actual Mr. Beast Burger restaurant. It's something that like a Wendy's or something is like making the food either in their kitchen or in a food truck on their property, but you can't actually like go up to that food truck and order. It will be the same concept for this place, okay, but with places that already serve these kinds of food. As it says on the Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, "Don't change who you are. We have brands that fit your current kitchen, suppliers, and way of working." So, there is, and most likely will not be, a real Freddy Fazbear's unless Scott intends to make it like a 2-week special location in the future for potential lore or whatever, okay? But there is none at the moment, and there won't be when this launches. You just order this on food delivery apps, okay? No. And at 10, mini arenas. Why are the mini arenas so damn creepy? Like, they're not scary per se, but they literally tear Ballora to pieces, so that's something, at least. Like, the mini arenas are basically the robotic version of those kids, like, in your neighborhood that are always screaming or causing trouble at all hours of the day. And like, you know, they go to a nearby school so that you literally always have to deal with them no matter what. Or they run down the street when you knock on their door to see their older brother, and then their family is so damn lazy that you have to take off after him running down the street and after him because his family's not going to do anything, even though it's literally a toddler running down the street in nothing but a diaper at 11 in the morning. And then you catch him in front of your other friend's house, and then you end up having that kid pull your hair, kicking and punching you all the way back to his house. At least he wasn't screaming, because then you might have gotten arrested. Then they don't even thank you. Did I just say all that out loud? Okay, well, my old neighbors were trash, and okay, that's a story for another day, but that's what the mini arenas remind me of, except they can kill me, or stuff themselves into my body while I sleep in order to escape their underground storage facility, and I don't think that kid was gonna do that. In at 9, Circus Baby. Let's move on to one of the deadliest animatronics in the game. Baby has a on-screen death count of 2. The first being William's daughter Elizabeth, and then the other being Henry, as we see in FNAF World. But it's not just the ability to kill that's crazy, it's the incredibly advanced technology present inside this animatronic that's impressive. The ability to contain a whole child-grabbing claw, and then also a containment chamber for said child is pretty damn impressive, but also the ability to use pins on her body to change her appearance is also pretty nuts. Not to mention all of her other features like ice cream dispensing and balloons inflating at her fingertips. But all of this again is overshadowed by the absolute carnage Baby has the ability to wreak. Dare I say, let there be carnage. And honestly, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg for the animatronic, not even including the Fazbear Frights versions. And I know that this isn't a Minecraft video, but did you know that only 14% of people who watch these videos are actually subscribed? You could be watching our videos all the time and not actually know that you're not subscribed. So, if you do like these kinds of videos, hit the subscribe button. It's free, it helps us out a whole lot, and you can always unsubscribe if you want to, okay? It's not like a marriage, okay? We don't get half your stuff if you choose to unsubscribe. Okay, now, on with the video. And it ate the scooper. Now, I know you may be mad and think that this is like a stupid point, but like hear me out, okay? The scooper may seem like a weird but kinda normal thing, at least by FNAF standards at first, but with the blueprint revealing how this actually works, this thing is an incredible piece of technology. It can inject whatever it ends up scooping with Remnant, a molten metal possessed by souls, that is capable of keeping a person alive after removing their insides, as we see with Michael. Replacing it, because, you know, he gets his innards replaced with innards, and then, like, you know, is able to walk around, and then after those robotic parts leave his body, he can still just chill, in essence, making him just a walking case of flesh. Unless it didn't actually remove anything and instead just opened him up and then had the animatronics go around his bones, but that would still require some serious juice to keep alive, and that's pretty damn impressive. But also horrifying, because while he may look more like he's just bruising, if the purple on Michael's skin is actually decay like some suggest, that Remnant injector is actually able to animate a dead corpse, in essence creating zombies, which would then start a zombie apocalypse, and that's been done to death, no pun intended, so you should all understand how bad of an idea that is, okay? Zombie apocalypses generally aren't good, especially animatronic-fueled zombie apocalypses created by intense agony-possessed metal that gets injected into someone's no-no square. In its 7 nightmare animatronics. While not the epitome of horror, the nightmare animatronics are certainly not the nicest of fellows. Not only that, but they are in fact not real. They're supposed to be in your brain, which makes them even more terrifying if you ask me. Because not only do these like illusions cause horrific visions to anyone who knows about them, they also end up killing a coma patient. Crying Child, as we know, is in the hospital in FNAF 4, making this game just a nightmare. However, getting caught by one of these animatronics causes him so much stress that he actually dies, which is absolutely insane when you look at it like that. These are so scary to him that it gives him a legit heart attack, or just makes his heart stop working entirely, since we know that's what happens instead of brain death at the end of the game, thanks to the flatline at the end, which is horrible and incredibly sad, but also terrifying. And at 6, the Twisted Ones. Well, the Twisted Ones do certainly seem to live up to their name. The Twisted animatronics are these horribly disfigured creatures that get no love from their mother, unlike an ugly duckling. The thing is, these don't grow into swans. Instead, they use another bit of tech that I'll get into later to disguise themselves. They also dig deep into the ground and wait until the middle of the night to crawl out and then take kids who wander away from their mommies. This legit sounds like some urban legend that parents tell their kids to make sure they stay home or get home after dark. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about them. That's the way the news goes. Halfway through into number 5, Fetch. Fetch was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books and is a robotic dog made by Fazbear Inc. that gets a little too loving. So much so that it will actually brutally murder the girl you ask to homecoming, even though her dad is a supervillain. Sorry, Peter, but at least you won't have to feel bad about sending your dad to prison. Either way, a robotic dog that will kill anything you love is absolutely terrifying and should be taken care of as soon as possible. Like, this is why you spay and neuter your animals, people. That's why The Price is Right would always say that. But in all seriousness, could you imagine if this thing was real? Like, if you randomly started getting texts from a robotic dog that followed you home, that instead of bringing you dead birds or squirrels, instead brings you the bloody arm of your crush. That sounds like something the Winchesters would end up fighting after it was manifested by some, like, 7-year-old. Oh, that would, yeah. It's like how they find a body in one of those crime shows, like Bones, and they're like, oh, this robotic dog just found this rotting arm and then put it in my bed. Like, that's like Palant levels of crazy, and if you know, you know. And at 4, Lonely Freddy. Lonely Freddy already in a way has a parallel in our world, kind of. Like that trope where someone becomes your friend and then becomes more like you and then tries taking over your life. I feel like that's a thing, but maybe I dreamt that ages ago and forgot about it, but I mean, it's possible, but also just plain old identity theft is another version of Freddy, okay? Identity theft isn't a joke, Jim. A Lonely Freddy was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books and is basically meant to explain what Psychic Friend Fredbear is, but a robot that steals your body and then traps your consciousness into its original robot body, what the ever-loving hell? Why is that so goddamn terrifying, especially in concept? But what if it was actually a thing? Well, it's easy to say that we would just try to avoid them, but we wouldn't know that they exist. We would just be lonely kids dreaming about having friends and someone who doesn't hurt you when all of a sudden a robot wants to be our friend. It would be vicious and definitely would have gotten me when I was a kid. Hell, it could get me now. Like, I legit wanted a robot friend because they wouldn't end up turning on me or something like that. And then here we go. Here's this. I just wanted someone to play games with. And if those people ended up not being people but instead robots, I would have been fine with it. That would have been fine with me. Except these would have taken over my body, so that would have kind of been a bummer. But that begs the question, when you get put inside the lonely Freddy, would you then get the ability to take over another person's body, or would you just be trapped in there permanently? Either way, it's terrifying, but I want to know. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, human robots. This is something I'm sure people won't think is scary, okay? Some scary good, maybe, but hey, the fact that there are robots that are actually able to look like humans is terrifying. Like, that's such a scary thing. In the original FNAF novel trilogy, it's revealed that Charlotte, the main protagonist of the books, is in fact one in a series of 4 robots meant to allow her to grow up properly after being killed at an early age. But not only is she a robot, also apparently she's also baby. At least from what I remember reading about the books, Charlotte's robot was also able to look like baby thanks to the pins on her body that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, that is the epitome of horror. Who in their right mind would think of a concept like that? And then, what if it was real? Like, we would all be goners. Like, imagine the fembots from Austin Powers. That's basically this. And then all the down bads would be trying to give it to them, and then they'd get themselves scooped. I'm surprised it didn't happen in the actual novels, since that one guy had his gears turning, if you know what I mean.
And if you do, can you please explain it to me, because I'm not even quite sure what I said there.
Penultimately, in at number 2, the spring locks. The spring lock mechanisms is probably the most intuitive thing that FNAF World's invented. The ability to move robotic parts out of the way enough for a human to fit inside is insane, and while it may be dangerous, we also drive over 100 kilometers per hour in huge metal death boxes, so can we really complain? Yes we can. Because while yes, cars have their faults, they are nothing compared to the ability to be both animatronic and suit. And then, like, that's an incredible feat of technology. People keep saying that spring locks actually exist in the comments, and I don't think that's true, okay? No one has ever given me a source, and it's not a thing, okay? Yet, these are also terrifying because of the same reasons in-game. Someone can dress in it and pretend to be a robot, and then everything can clamp down on you in any second, as it has multiple times before. It can trap you, okay? It could, if it were real, crush you, and do everything that we learn about from the books and the games, okay? It would basically just make your life hell for fun, especially when it can be a robot. And the man who was once inside of it can smile knowing that you and all your friends can't fight off a huge hunk of metal. But also, like, I would never get into one of those things. Like, even if there hadn't been an incident, that seems like a final destination moment. I wouldn't do it, even if it's in my contract. If they tell me get in this or you're fired, I quit. Like, God. Or actually, no, I let them fire me so I get a severance package. If they have one. And then I can sue them for wrongful termination. And finally, in number 1, the Illusion sound discs. I used to mention these a lot, at the very least, because these are astounding. If you didn't already know, in the original FNAF novel trilogy, it was revealed that the Twisted One's animatronics used discs that changed how others saw them, basically creating an illusionary appearance using sound emitted from that disc that messed with your brainwaves. However, the mere existence of these discs puts everything we know about the series into question. Like, how do we know that anything is real? FNAF 1 has us hallucinate multiple different things like it's me, along with multiple news clippings and posters. What if that was all the discs? And if it was, what if other things were changed by the discs as well? Like, what does the pizzeria really look like? Do the animatronics have different appearances than what we actually see? Are they more rotten? And given that they were leaking mucus and blood beforehand, I feel like they should have been decommissioned. But if this technology existed, I would have trust issues even more so than I do now. Honestly, this might exist, and we just don't know about it. Disney is probably using it because they're like the evil corporation of the world, right? That's a thing, is that we're never getting sponsored by Disney, but that's fine. And at 10, Halloween Special. Given FNAF's track record with various expansions around Halloween, I feel like it would only make sense to have some form of Halloween special thing around these delivery restaurants. Whether it be a special menu item with or maybe like even a discount. FNAF has released so much Halloween DLC with FNAF 4 and FNAF VR that it would just make sense to have something to do with Halloween with this delivery service, okay? And like I said, whether it be like a limited menu item, like maybe like some candy from FNAF VR, or as Amanda suggested to me, chocolate cockroaches, since apparently you can eat cockroaches in FNAF VR. Apparently it's also required to get the Let's Eat achievement, which is hilarious, but it could also just be like a random Halloween theme for the store, alright? That you can just like as you're scrolling through, you can see like Springtrap or the puppet watching us while we just scroll and needlessly spend our money only to make us sit on our couches and watch more YouTube. I mean, like, if you're watching us, that's probably the best way to spend the inevitable end of the world, but I mean, like, come on. And at 9, Fizzy Faz. Fizzy Faz is a set of items that can be found in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, and using them, or like obtaining them, actually increases the player's stamina, and they can be found in different locations around the map. Fizzy Faz appears to be a Fazbear Entertainment branded soda line, featuring the main animatronics of this game, and sold like exclusively at the Pizzaplex. Each member of the animatronic band is featured on the cans, and they have like a flavor that represents their like color, I think, which is kind of weird, but that's a whole other thing. Okay, there's an orange flavored Fizzy Faz sponsored by Glamrock Freddy. It was located in like a control room when you first enter basement 1. There's a sour lime flavored Fizzy Faz sponsored by Montgomery Gator. I mean, it could have been something other than lime. I feel like lime, so like gotta do the lemon and lime to actually make it work, but whatever. Pink Lemonade sponsored by Glamrock Chica, and a grape flavored Fizzy Faz sponsored by Roxanne. Again, I feel like there could have been better options for that, because I mean, like, she has hardly any purple on her. She has more red, so you could have done cherry, but you know what, that's just me. But having those cans, or even just that kind of branding available on the app, would be pretty sick, even if it's just like in the style of like those Funko soda cans, you know, like that have the figure inside, or maybe it's just like a beer cozy or something. That would be fun. And at 8, themed meals. Just like how McDonald's has like the Happy Meals, Freddy's could have some form of themed meals as well, whether they be based on the games or on a favorite animatronic. I think that there would definitely be some form of like pizza, like a food theme that you can order, especially with the pizza. If there aren't like different combinations for the different popular animatronics, I'm gonna be mad, okay? I need to be able to order Chica's favorite pizza mashup, okay? I need the Freddy Fazbear meat lovers, or maybe the Monty Gator meat lovers, because he's a crocodile, and the crocodiles are meat. You know what I mean, okay? The Freddy Fazbear one might have like anchovies on it, because like he's a bear and anchovies are fish, you know? I think it would certainly help make this place feel like more of a Fazbear delivery service than just another pizza restaurant, okay? Like how Mr. Beast has like the whole like Carl's grilled cheese, or like the Chandler burger on his store. Yeah, this is that kind of concept, except it's just themed for animatronics instead of people. And at 7, the Sun and Moon Drop Candy. The daycare attendant is a sun and moon headed animatronic themed thing, creepy dude that is consisting of 2 personalities that share the same vessel in Security Breach. The character is like a mascot for 2 candy brands though, and they go by the names of Sunny Drop Energizing Candy and Moon Drop Sleepy Time Candy. These candies are actually how we figured out the name of the animatronic, but the animatronic, like, he chills out in like the daycare, which is a whole other like question, but then as soon as the lights go off, the moon shows up, and it's unknown if moon is activated when the lights go out in the daycare specifically, or if it's just when the area around him is dark. But however, being able to order the candy would actually be kind of cool. It would be a great addition to the app. I mean, it wouldn't really be like, it wouldn't actually be energizing or sleepy candy, because I mean, that's just caffeine and melatonin pills. But even if it's like just branded hard candy, I feel like it would be kind of a cool addition. It would in essence be a form of collector's item because of that, and the amount of exclusives that this service could have kind of horrifies me. As someone who is constantly broke, the amount of exclusives, this is gonna be costly. I might have to give up literally my apartment for it. And it's 6 toys! There are so many toys in the FNAF universe that I don't even know. I don't even need to talk about security breach in this sense. In FNAF BR, there are a ton of prize counter items, okay? In this game, prizes are unlocked at the end of levels, okay? The player will open a present with a hand crank. It's kind of similar to a Jack-in-the-Box thing. Then you'll receive a random prize or a jump scare. There are 105 separate prize items in Help Wanted, and 70 of those are not food items. Even if we went to like the action figures only, much like how McDonald's and Burger King gave out or used to give out toys, the Happy Meals, maybe like the Fazbear delivery service could do the same thing, but not a Happy Meal, because you know, copyright. I don't quite know how it would work. They would need smaller versions of those action figures and whatnot, and I feel like it would be a lot, but it would be a little something extra for the kids who wouldn't really be satisfied having just FNAF branded food, which I mean is understandable. Like you don't buy food, you rent it. Am I right, fellas? Just me? Okay, well, I don't really want to keep a greasy branded pizza box around my apartment as a memory, okay? So like, an optional toy would be a good idea. I also have no FNAF merch aside from that one shirt that I can't find anymore, so yeah. Halfway through into number 5, exotic butters. Exotic butters. Exotic butters. Cringy white guy aside, despite the terrifying ships involving exotic butters with other characters, yeah, sad to say I'm not exaggerating that. Exotic butters X entered is a real thing. Go watch the video. It would still be nice to have an exotic butters joke somewhere in this delivery service. Maybe a certain dish or category of food is made with quote-unquote exotic butters, or maybe they just like sell sticks of butter that are imported from somewhere else. I mean, it would be absolutely hilarious. They could also just do a thing where like you're ordering a basket of bread or whatever, but instead send exotic butters, like kind of like that scene from Sister Location. Or since that would probably cause some issues with people who don't actually understand the joke, maybe just like an April Fool's Day joke thing where like every time you click on a menu item it just says you're ordering exotic butters. I don't know, they may lose business that day, but it would be hilarious, and I feel like Scott doesn't really care about making money, so who knows. I don't quite know how it would work, but I mean, exotic butters is such a low-hanging fruit at this point, and I didn't think about it until Amanda reminded me, which is kind of sad. And for branding, I think that the appeal of this delivery service isn't going to be the food exactly, okay? It's going to be the fact that you're ordering from a place known as Freddy Fazbear's. And that's really the whole driving point behind this business venture. That's what it is, okay? Honestly, the only reason people order from Mr. Beast Burger is because they like Mr. Beast and or want him to notice them. Kind of like tier 3 subs on Twitch. Yeah, despite it being a very, very low possibility, because, you know, it's Uber Eats, you still try. And before you tell me it's because you like the food, that seems impossible to me. I mean, unless Mr. Beast Burger is different in the States. Okay, I've ordered it twice and maybe got a couple of the most disappointing meals I've gotten on a delivery app, okay? The worst one was when the driver put my pizza box upside down, but like that's not the point. My point is that if people are going to order Fazbear's, it's going to be because it's Fazbear, okay? Even if the food isn't great. So driving home the branding and making it really good and iconic is going to do a lot for them in the long run, especially after the novelty wears off when it first releases. Trust me, okay? I went to school for this kind of thing, so I have a pretty good idea. Plus, also, have you seen this channel? Branding things with FNAF is kind of my thing. Getting close to the end into number 3, good food. However, personally, I would like to see actually good food come out of the delivery service, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really have high hopes for it. I am pretty skeptical, mostly because they're just menu items that the restaurant that is doing this will also start making, and since the quality of those items is only associated with the virtual dining concept store, being Fazbear delivery service, instead of actually the restaurant that's making it, they can probably get away with slacking. Since if the quality of, let's say, your Mr. Beast Burger isn't the greatest, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to order from Mr. Beast Burger again, despite it being the Wendy's that made it. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, I can order from Wendy's, but let's avoid Mr. Beast Burger despite them being literally the same kitchen. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, I'm hoping that these restaurants are actually end up making this, like, that make the food will be making enough from it that they actually want to have it be good quality, even after the initial wave of orders, okay? I also hope that we'll have more than just like pizza and like the same pizza that the place would make regularly, okay? For some reason I have the idea of like pizza balls from the Multiverse of Madness, okay? Because honestly that would be unique and that would be awesome. But like, that, aside from the pizza rolls that they initially said that they would have, okay, the ones with like the unique twist and game tie-ins that we still have no idea what that means, I want more unique things than just pizza rolls. You know, you get me? But ultimately, in at number 2, inside jokes. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with the exotic butters thing, but I'm thinking like fandom specific jokes. You know, like, yes, exotic butters, but what about the rest? Amanda suggested Coffee's Coffee from Scott's other game, A Desolate Hope, and honestly, I think that that's a great idea. I mean, Coffee's character is canon in FNAF thanks to the FNAF 3 VR Easter egg where Coffee can appear on your desk, and maybe A Desolate Hope is one of the in-universe Scott's other games that he made before he was being paid by Fazbear to start making fun of their tragedies, so I think that it would absolutely be possible and funny to include that as a bit of a nod to the fans. There are also plenty of other jokes that they could reference, be it in the packaging or other products. Obviously, there were the ones that we mentioned previously, pizza for the main cast of the animatronics, toys that could have some jokes as well, like maybe a Buff Helpy toy, which would be actually terrifying. Please don't do that. There are like, even if some of the boxes have like Toy Freddy being aggressive or something, I think that those would be a great way to help make the fans feel like they're getting a little bit of extra value out of their order because they know the series. Otherwise, like, what's the point of being invested in it if there's no jokes or hints to pick up on, you know? Like, kind of like a relationship, because all those have gone so well for me. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, giant flashing sarcasm sign, like the gif from Big Bang Theory, you know? And finally, in at number 1, secret lore. I think finally the thing that we all want is for there to be some kind of secret lore that is going to be revealed with these restaurants. Like maybe a secret code here and there, or maybe they end up revealing who caused the bite of 87 for real, or finally confirm that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed because no one believes me. But no matter what way you slice it, I think that we're all hoping for and even kind of expecting some secrets to come out of these restaurants. I mean, we got it with the Fazbear Frights books, we got it with the sister location toys because, you know, you bought them all and they all made Ennard. We even got it with the goddamn survival logbook. So, especially in lieu of this being discovered after MatPat suggested a potential FNAF ARG, I think we're all going to be surprised if this has nothing to do with that possibility. Honestly, I'm fairly certain that the only reason the Twitter account was revealed despite joining in January of 2021 was because of this leak and because people found out, okay? They were certainly going to be more delayed before revealing, suggesting that this was probably going to open in 2023, which also just so happens to be the time that Fazbear's Fright opens in Universe, the location we explore in FNAF 3, which if you thought was opening later or earlier than that, I hope that this confirms the time frame for you, but like these things aren't a coincidence. Not with Scott, not with the man who released the second FNAF game 87 days after the first, assuming that the first one would fail. No way, unless I'm crazy, which is entirely possible.